What's going on, everybody? I am Chris Flowers. I am the executive producer of the Biz Coach Show, and we are here with Eric Whitmore, the founder and host of the Biz Coach Show and My Biz Coaches. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much. How are you doing this new year?
I'm doing all right, man. Like I said, just playing with the toys. Like I said, more to come in 26. We're going to have cool little sound bites.
I'm super nervous.
Yeah, you should be.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Yes, we have some good New Year's topic to talk about today too. So it makes it even more fun.
So we're talking like New Year's was that resolution for your business, something corny like that, or were you actually talking about some real stuff?
No, you know me. I actually
going to stick to.
Yeah, you know me. I started working on the New Year's plan in I think it was October.
Mine was October. Yeah.
Yeah, it was October. Yep. I finalized it in November and then started working on some of the projects in December. So I wanted to make sure I got the new year off started right. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about for everybody on the show today. So a lot of people, we talk about this. I talk about this every year, having my coaching career really started when I launched my book, the Success with Goals, back in 2017. And I launched it in the fourth quarter with the intent of kind of leveraging it going into the new year, and knowing that people had New Year's resolutions. And, as a sales leader for the better part of my professional career, one of the things I identified with was, fresh new start, and a fresh new start doesn't need to be the calendar change. It could be a fresh new start, it could be a new store, it could be a new week, it could be a new day, right? It's just like, you can create a new start whenever you're ready to create a new start. Really, it's a mental reframing more than anything, right? And that's kind of what we're talking about today. The calendar changed and it's a new year, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you got a fresh new start on the new year, because the reality is you could very well have the same bad habits that you tolerated all of 2025 and maybe even 2024, and could have been, even during COVID. 21, 22, right? So the truth of the matter is the year's not going to just get magically better because the calendars flip the page, right? That's the challenge for most people. Right? And as it relates to your business specifically, right, nothing is going to change if you don't change the daily habits that you have. So if you're frustrated with where your business is at, and that's where a lot of our conversations kind of stem from with our clients, if your conversation where your business is at, if you're frustrated with where your business is at right now, then the reality is you got to take a hard look at the habits that you've developed, good and bad, and make sure that they're still serving you. Because you have good habits that may not be serving you anymore, right? There are things that you did in the beginning that got you to a certain level of your business, but those habits may not be serving you. They actually may be holding you back from the next level. And one of the things that we've talked about on the show before is, remember, what got you here may not get you there, right? Chris, what gets you from zero to $10,000 a month, and with here's the deal, and the video marketing that you're doing and everything like that, isn't going to be what takes you from 10K to 30K or 50K or whatever that next threshold for you is. And so helping you identify what are those skill sets that are going to get you from where you are to where you really want to be. And it all comes back to the habits that you develop, right? Good and bad. And right, the bad ones are obvious, right? When you identify you got a bad habit, right? What's keeping me from doing some of the things I need to do, but it could
or you could take one of the good habits. If you recognize a good habit that you're doing, and can you double down on that, to take it to that next level kind of thing? Because, okay, that worked out last year. Okay, now how can we turn it up?
That's right. How do I turn up the dial on that one? Exactly. Great point. Yep. And so in some cases, what was a good habit last year moved you to a certain point, but now you have to double down on it to take it to the next level. Because let's just say, for the sake of argument, lead generation. That's a really obvious conversation we have with clients. Hey, I was doing this. I was doing, 10 LinkedIn connections a day. 10 a day for 20 working days, I generate 200 connections in a month. Well, those 200 connections equated to, let's say, 10%. So you get 20 conversations. Those 20 conversations turn into 10 calls. Those 10 calls turn into 1 or 2 new clients. And in our business models, that actually might be sufficient. The revenue that we generate for those new clients and, where we're at in the scope and scale of the business, that might be, relatively reasonable. 200, if that 200 is getting you 1 or 2 new clients a month, and that gets you to your 10,000, well, then what's it going to take to get you to 30,000? It's going to be 3 times that, which means 10 clients, 10 conversations a day ain't going to get it done. It's going to need 30 conversations a day, right? So to your point, how do we amp it up? How do we turn it up? And a lot of what we talk about with our clients is, okay, that was a good habit. Now we got to take it to the next level, right? We're going to inject some steroids in it, or we got to load it up on some protein or something like that. But we need to build the muscle on this and make that grow bigger, because what we're doing right now is good, but it's not going to take our business to the next level. And thinking that we can continue to do that and get better results, your closing ratio might get better, but that's not going to incrementally move the needle the way that you want it to.
We just want to say, for like official purposes, the Biz Coach Show does not endorse doing performance enhancing drugs in any way, shape, or form. Before anybody gets all crazy on us.
That's right.
Looking at the size 2 of us, like, like, we're not doing that.
That's right.
No anybody getting any ideas.
So, but we definitely want to make sure that, we're taking a hard look at those habits, because like I said before, I get so many people are like, it's a new year. And I'm like, okay, New Year's great opportunity to get some fresh change, but that doesn't guarantee that the new year is going to be a new year with all the bells and whistles you think is going to come with that, unless you change the things that are going into, what's making your business grow and scale and what's getting you results that you're looking for. So let's keep that in mind. One of the first things that I help clients identify is, what's some of the momentum that's going on? So that as you go into the new year, what are some of the things that inherently are already there that we could kind of plug into to help move our businesses forward? So I don't care what business you're in, there are certain things that are going on in the world today that are moving everything in a certain direction. Now, whether that's a direction you want to get on or a direction you want to avoid, either way, it's an opportunity for you to create some momentum for your business, right? And so, if we were to think about that, Chris, let me ask you that. As you think about that, what are some of the things that are currently going on in the general landscape of business as a whole that you might want to kind of get on board with?
I think people are getting more confident in the economy, and I think people are going to looking to start, reinvesting in their business and things like that, where before maybe they might have been a little apprehensive. They wanted to keep their powder dry, but now they're seeing, okay, the markets are opening back up, things like that. Things are, if inflation's under control, things like that. Okay, now we can start getting back to, so that's like, I want to be in front of that, to where it's like, hey, you got some increased money to spend on your marketing stuff. Let's start creating some videos.
Yep. Great point. So excellent one. Another momentum builder, I guess we'll call it, that probably exists out there. Well, I know it exists out there, is this little two-letter acronym that seems to be resonating with just about everybody everywhere. It was AI, right? And so, how does artificial intelligence impact business today, right? And what role is that playing? Maybe not necessarily directly in your business, but what role is it playing in your industry, and or the way that clients are engaging in your business and or industry? So in saying that, the key isn't to say jump into AI. It's to pay attention to what everybody else is paying attention to, and make sure that you're not completely oblivious to it. Because let me give you a great example. One of my clients is an immigration law firm, and we're having a conversation, and they brought up a topic that the current political group is focusing on, something they did recently. I don't even know enough to know to speak on it, but what happened was we did some kind of action in Venezuela. We
got Maduro the hell out of there.
Yeah. So I didn't even know that. So that's how
I don't know what rock you've been under, but yeah.
Well, that's what happens when you're writing a book and you're knee deep in the middle of writing a book. You're just really not paying that, and the flu. Reading those two things, I was pretty much out of pocket. But Needless to say, my point is that's a good example of, if I'm going to be successful as a business coach and I'm going to provide my clients the best perspective that I can provide them as it relates to certain things that are going on in the business, that's something that's relevant for them as it relates to immigration law, right? I mean, there's a direct correlation, but it's something that, it's probably something I should be aware
definitely
of.
some ripple effect.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so to that point, right, it's like, what's going on in your business, in your industry, that you need to be aware of, that you need to be discussing, that you need to be familiar with, so that you can make either take advantage of or make point to, right? Pivot if necessary. But here's the thing: as you move into the new year, there's certain things that are happening right now. There's certain things that happened last year that we can expect will continue to happen in 2026. There's certain things that we don't even know yet, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But there are certain things that we've seen. There's certain seasonalities that we know that play out. Like, for instance, if you're in the fitness space, the one thing that we know every year at the beginning of the year is what? Oh, people are I'm gonna commit to going to the gym, right? That commitment may only last 9 days, but I committed to going to the gym, right? The point is that what do you know that's out there that you can lean into, that you can leverage, that you can take advantage of, that you can capitalize on? Because at the end of the day, hope's not a strategy, right? What we need to do is we need to pay attention to what's going on and kind of leverage what we can, lean into and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there. And a lot of that is being aware and paying attention to what other people are seeing, or let me more specifically, that are responding to, right? What are other people responding to that's relevant to your business, your industry, that you can lean into and capitalize on, take advantage of, or avoid, right? Depending on how it's relevant for your business. But here's the thing: most people aren't even thinking about those things. Most business owners are so caught up in the day-to-day of whatever they're doing, haven't even stopped to think about that for a minute. Why it's so important that when you transition into the new year, that, I'm an adamant believer that you need to take 2 full days, analyze your business plan. If you don't do a business plan, if you haven't done a business plan, maybe take the time to do a business plan. But at minimum, just look at your business, look at what you did last year, review your finances, review your systems and processes, just kind of take a look at all the different components of your business, and then say, okay, where am I happy? Where am I not happy? Where would I like to get better? Maybe run a SWOT analysis, whatever it is that you're familiar with, that you're comfortable with. Analyze your business, take an objective look at it and say, okay, where am I happy? Where am I not happy? And then take a look at, and as you do a SWOT analysis, okay, what are the threats and opportunities that exist outside of my business that I can, again, lean into or avoid? And that's kind of what we're talking about as you move into that new year, right? And then from that, determine what those new habits are that you want to build. What's that process? What's that new system? What's that new, whatever that you want to implement in your business, and identify what that is. But it does require a conscious focus to really kind of step back and think through your business and say, okay, what are the things I wasn't happy with last year that I'd like to see done differently this year? And what could I create as a new habit so that I do that thing that I want to do? Right. So those are some of the key things we're kind of talking about. Any thoughts on that, Chris?
It's something that you always talk about with me, where, like I said, I think, you have to celebrate the victories, you know what I'm saying? And then you have to, because that will help build that momentum to where I think it develops those good habits and things like that. And it teaches you to recognize, what are the things that you're doing right. But then you also, when you're doing that, when you're reflecting on those things, okay, what can we do better? So I think that's kind of part of the analysis. And then, yeah, I think, like I said, yeah, if you're definitely not doing a SWOT analysis on, where you're at in your business, that's something that's going to bite you in the ass, later on, because, like I said, there is competition out there, and, if you're not, striving for, what's going to, pique my customers' interest, things like that, like I said, if you're like, oh, hey, you know what, last year we did great, we had a killer year, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. Well, as the environment, the economy, and the technology keeps changing, you know, that like you said, what got you here may not get you there. So again, having that honest assessment of yourself is also something that's just got to get done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there was a point there that you just made that I think is really relevant is, the at the end of the day, when you are reflecting in your business, there are circumstances like your competition. What are they doing? Right? So many times I hear business owners, "Oh, I don't really have any real competition." Like, I don't
Really?
care what you sell, what service or product you sell, somebody else sells something that's comparable. You may position yourself as saying, "I don't have any competition." Everybody's got some type of
You're
competition.
fooling
Everybody's
yourself.
competing for
Yeah.
something, right? So, and even if it's not a direct competition for your product or service, there's a comparable product or service that is competing for those same dollars
Correct.
and that attention or whatever. And so at the end of the day,
Or you may have come up with something that was pretty unique in your industry.
and is
Somebody just
no longer.
replicated it. Somebody just
That's
reverse
right.
engineered it and replicated it. Now, like, you know, now they're coming out with it too, but they may come out with a little tweak here, maybe, you know, a little less expensive here, a little bit, you know, whatever. And then now that's making your product obsolete.
That's a great point. And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? Because if you're not familiar enough, if you're not paying attention to what's going on out there, that's how you also get blindsided, right? We talk about threats and opportunities. Well, that's a threat. That's an external threat that I was not familiar with. It did not exist last year. I had a unique advantage. So now because I had a unique advantage and I had a 200% year over year lift in performance because this particular product or category or service or whatever, was crushing it. Well, now a competitor coming out with a competing product or service is now released. Maybe I didn't see it. Maybe it came out in the fourth quarter and it barely caught my radar, but now it's in full force going into the new year, and they're going to cut into that. And I'm looking at 200% year over year lift, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do another 200% year over year lift. And instead, I only get 50%. Well, the reason I only get 50% is because there's somebody else out there competing directly with me, and because I wasn't paying attention, it's eating into my market share, right? So, great point, and certainly something that we have to constantly analyze without making it be that's all we're focused on, right? Because we got to focus on running our business. So you've got to have that. I'm trying to think of the analogy. It's what probably is the best analogy is when you drive stick shift manual transmission. Not a whole lot of people know what that is anymore, apparently, these days. But for those of us who are familiar, right?
Children.
Yeah, you can't, when you drive a normal car that's not a manual transmission, right? You only focus on putting your hands on the wheel and focus on where you're driving, right? And your foot moves the gas pedal and the brake pedal, blah, 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 right? But
Right.
when you add manual transmission and you have to shift the gears on the transmission, you're adding yet another element to the process, right? And that additional element, if you can't find the gear manually with your hand, right, you have to look down and figure out, right? Yeah, exactly, right. But for those of you who are familiar, when you have to look down at that gear, what are you doing when you look down at the gearbox?
You're distracted from what's in front of you.
You're taking your vision off the road, right? And so I remember it's like my mom, when I'm trying to shift gears, my mom's like, look at the road, look at the road. I'm like, I can't tell where my gears going. I was like, how am I going to do this?
Stick shifts. I miss sticks so bad.
But when you first started driving, that was a whole nother element that you really didn't need to implement, right? So I learned how to drive on a manual or an automatic transmission. But I definitely
I learned how to drive on a stick. So
did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I came to appreciate
three on a tree, as a matter of fact. It was an old Ford pickup truck. It was a 3 on a tree.
Go. Yeah, that's super old.
For all you young kids out there, you can Google that.
But the key is identifying that extra step was just enough of a distraction to take my eyes off the vision of the goal where we're going, right? And so it's the same thing with our businesses. When we implement something different or new into our strategy or our process that we weren't accustomed to doing before, and we have to implement it as a daily habit or a process, we now start losing focus on the direction we're going because we're focused on the activity or the action I'm doing right now. And that's a great analogy as it relates to what we're talking about, right?
Sorry,
So
I have to fact check that. It was a Mercury Monterey. It wasn't the Ford pickup truck, but it was a Mercury Monterey. But anyway, 67 or 64 Mercury Monterey. Anyway, go ahead. Excuse me. Sorry. I just had to fact check myself there.
fair enough. Appreciate you being honest there, Chris. So a couple of things I want to kind of incorporate here, and these are things that I would encourage you to kind of look at. Again, hope is not a strategy. So review last year's numbers. Make sure to audit the following. What was your actual cash flow? Not your profit and loss statement. What was your cash flow? At the end of each month, you had a certain amount of revenue. You had a certain amount of actual expenses that you had to pay for. The net of that is your cash flow. Now, you may have bought some things on credit and that you took on debt, but that didn't affect your cash flow. What affected your cash flow was the minimum payment that you made on that credit card if you used that credit card, or if
And
you
that was
used
one
a
of
line
those
of credit.
expenditures I should have already taken out.
Well, but the idea is what we want to clearly identify what was the actual net cash flow month over month, right?
Yeah.
And so that what I have identified in many of our client engagements is most clients are not familiar with their cash flow. They're familiar with the P&L that they get from their accountant, the bookkeeper, whatever, each month in and month out. They're familiar with their bank balance, but what they're not looking at necessarily is their net, positive or negative, net cash flow on the month. Now, you could have a 1 month where you have a negative cash flow, less cash coming in than money going out, and gets in there very next month or the previous month could have had a significant influx of cash or has an influx of cash that will offset the shortfall month over month. And typically we're able to do that because we're able to leverage debt in different ways and things like that. But the point is if you consistently see different months because of seasonality, because of whatever, right, that you're having shortfalls in cash in certain months, these are things that you want to pay really close attention to so that from year over year, you can plan accordingly when you know that those particular months are coming, right? So that's an important aspect to look at, but you have to be looking at cash flow, not profit and loss, because profit and loss is often a month or two behind in some cases. Another one, in profit and loss, when you look at, if you look at a month's individual profit, most people don't look at the month's profit. Most people look at the year to date, right? And so what we want to make sure is we're paying attention to what's going on month in and month out. Another thing is capacity. Let's say I'm a landscaping business and we do hardscape and we install new, turf and put in the travertine
drip systems, and
right, and we put in different drip systems for the trees or whatever it is. When you look at, for me to do $100,000 a month in that business, I need X number of yards of turf, right? Or I need this, or I need X number of people to be able to do that, or it takes us so many days to produce, to do. I don't know, a 10,000 square foot backyard or whatever, 5,000 square foot backyard or whatever it looks like, right? But do you have the resources for capacity, right? Can you add more, right? Do you have the ability to do 100,000? If you did 60,000 a month on average last year, do you have the capacity to move up to $100,000 a month? So take a look at that and look at it month in and month out over last year. How often were you at full capacity versus, like with the team that we have, we were only doing about 60% capacity on a regular basis. So you have the upside potential. Whereas if it was the other way where you look at it and you say, well, we're at 90% capacity all year long, what does that mean? Well, that means likely you probably have to add a truck and maybe bring in some additional employees because you don't have the potential to grow at this point.
Or what's it going to take from your vendors? Like I said, because obviously you're going to your vendors and getting supplies. It's like, okay, if I step up my order from this to this, what kind of discounts can I get? And that can obviously, tweak your cash flow, as well too. Because obviously if your cost of materials is coming down, things like that, your COGS are going down, then that can obviously,
that increased productivity could add to that. Correct. Absolutely.
Correct.
Yep. The next thing would be looking at your sales pipeline, right? Do you have enough potential business to be able to scale to that next level, right? Are you looking hard at your pipeline of sales? Have you identified that you have enough potential business? Like when we installed turf, as an example, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, I think it was, something like that. When we put that in our yard, in our backyard, I remember we went to the Arizona Home Show, for those familiar with the area and they're familiar with that venue. We went to the home show. It was at up in Scottsdale there at Westworld. And I remember we walked the whole area. I made my wife we went to 5 or 6 different, I think we went to 6 different, that we saw 13 different places. We went to 6. We actually engaged with 6 different ones. Determined to on 4 that we wanted to get quotes from, right? Here's the kicker on that. We determined 4 we wanted to get quotes from. We only got quotes from 2. The other 2 never called us back.
Oh,
yeah. Isn't that crazy? So anyway, everybody complains about
follow up is king,
right?
Is king.
But my point is that with all of everything that we did, right, people's pipelines were super full. They were so full that they didn't need to follow up with the lead that we generated for them when we went to them and said at that home show and said, hey, we're interested in working with you. Their pipeline was full. So the question for you is your pipeline full enough that you could move your business from that proposed $60,000 a month to that $100,000 a month that you want to move to? Do you have line of sight to that many new sales? And do you have, another question then would be, do you have the lead generation process to ramp up those sales, right? So all things you want to look at to identify whether or not you're prepared to scale that.
I would also take a look at it, especially if you're to the point where, we're so busy, we not calling people back, things like that. What can you do from a customer service side? Say, hey, what do we have to hire another, customer service rep? Can we use some AI tools that's, for the automatic lead follow-ups? Like, hey, we're busy, but we're going to, call you back in 24 hours, kind of thing, things like that. Even going back to the turf analogy, you installed turf, and like I said, you said, hey, we're going to install this turf. It's going to cut our water bill down, things like that. We're not going to have to worry about reseeding, winter seed, summer, winter, all that kind of stuff. So that, like I said, cut your household expenditures down in your business. Like I said, going back to, hey, what are your processes, things like that. Is there something that's available this year that maybe wasn't available last year? And if we implement that, how will that affect our production level? Can we increase production while maybe, lowering some of the overhead and things like that as well?
Yeah. Great point. All great points. And I think that what's important in all of that, which you actually hit a point that's really important, indirectly, is the whole reason that we sought to get turf is that when, what accelerated the whole thing was we spent a lot of time in our backyard and we had a major leak issue, which we didn't know it was a leak issue. We just knew that we had, with our current drip system for the backyard, for the irrigation for the grass. And we didn't realize that it was leaking because it had been installed 10 years earlier when the house was originally built. And we didn't realize that that's actually why our backyard was constantly damp all the time. Even almost muddy. Like if we had a lot of rain like we're currently having right now, my system would still be on, and it was like, but I didn't run the sprinkler. So why is it flooding out my back? Why is my backyard all muddy? And the reason was because it was a leak. And so we're like, we're just done with it. We're just going to gut the whole thing. We're just going to do turf, and then we have to deal with that. Right. When I'm mud in the backyard, the dogs are bringing it in. Should
have noticed from your increased water bill too.
We didn't know any different. It was like that from the time that we bought the house.
Wow. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The house was
nothing new. Yeah.
The house was 10 years old when we bought it, and we didn't know any different. Right. And you didn't notice that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So great point. But that all of which, right, at the end, when it's all said and done. Now, here's the thing. Talk about sense of urgency. We had a big party for 4th of July. And everybody that I called, I'm like, now remember, we started looking in March, and I was telling people, I'm like, look, I want to work with you. We're 2-3 weeks into, I think it was the home show was in March. So it was like, this is mid-April. And I'm like, we want to have this installed and ready to go for a party by July 1st. Even with everything all that lead time, we still didn't get it installed until a day before 4th of July. It didn't finish the installation until the day before 4th of July. So talk about, sales pipeline, capacity, right? All those kind of things. Now, another one would be time allocation. This is an important one for people that want to grow or believe they want to grow a business, how much time do you want to allocate to growing your business? Some people don't want to put that much effort into growing the business. They don't want to put in the extra time to scale the business. Now, for those of us
You're
who are
going to have
really
to
ambitious,
elaborate on that, because that's like a foreign concept to me. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
I saw the gears grinding.
yeah, I'm like, what? I'm sorry. Does not compute. Like,
exactly. Danger, Rue Watson. Yeah, no, believe it or not, there's people out there that, they started a business and either they became comfortable because they've gotten to a certain point and they're good, or because they look at it and say, it's just more hassle than it's worth. I don't necessarily agree, but I can understand some of that perspective.
I'm not getting that, but
yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, and a lot of times I think what it is people think more employees, more hassle. Right. And I don't disagree that there's more moving parts, right? There's more things that have to be managed. But that's where, we come into play and we help them identify how to make this business operate more efficiently. And there's a lot of things that go into that. A lot of the business owners that we engage with that initially are like, I don't know that I want to grow. It's because they don't realize there's a better way to do it or an easier way to do it. Now, I say easier doesn't mean it's easy up front. It means that once you get your systems and processes in place, it will run much more efficiently and not be as much of a drain or frustration. But it does take some time, right? It takes to build it and put it in place. But anyway, so the point being, time allocations is a big point because it will require you to reinvest time and energy into the business at a level that you may not be prepared to do right now for maybe, say, personal reasons. You've got something going on in your life. You got kids at a certain age, maybe you got aging parents, or maybe there's a sickness in the family. All those types of factors may deter you from leveling up year over year. Mm-hmm. So those are things to consider, right? But all of which, do you have the time allocation? And then the last one is team performance. You should be assessing your team performance every year, right? And ironically, I'll ask business owners all the time, small business owners particularly, I'll ask them all the time, when was the last time you conducted reviews on all your employees? And 25 years of managing somebody else's business, I can tell you exactly when we did it. We did it. At minimum, we did it monthly because we were in sales. At the last company I was with, we actually did it basically daily. Now, a full-on official review, we did it annually, right? We did them quarterly. But we were checking in with the team daily. Literally, how did you perform yesterday? How are you intending to perform today? What are you going to do differently that you didn't do yesterday? What could you do differently so you get a better result?
That's a little micromanaging. It's
not micromanaging. No, it's micro aware. And here's the thing. The biggest mistake in most sales organizations is that they are not constantly, and I say constantly, I mean it. You're not always aware of what is getting done in an efficient manner. Or more specifically, I guess the way I want to say it is, if you're not analyzing the takeaways from each individual interaction. Remember, in retail sales particularly, how many customer interactions do you have in the course of a day? 10, 15, 20 maybe. Every one of those is an opportunity to adjust and course correct, right? And here's the thing. When you have that many transactions a day, compound that over a week. And let's just say you picked up a bad habit.
Okay, yep. I got you. I'm tracking.
So yes, now you immediately, right? So let's say you picked up a bad habit on transaction number 1 on Monday, and you have 20 transactions a day for 5 days. You've done that same bad habit 100 times. Mm-hmm. How hard is it going to be for us to course correct on that bad habit?
Yeah, no, I'm tracking now. Yeah, it makes sense.
Sorry about that. But that's a big factor. And that's where, and I learned that over time in the early days of the wireless industry when I was doing that as my career. I didn't think about that. I never really, I'm like, I do the same thing every time. And then ironically, somebody would point out like, actually, you don't, Eric. You actually, you do it this way with this person, then you do it this way. Now, I had this similar 6-step process that I would follow with every customer, but there were certain things that I was leaving out with certain clients that I didn't do with other clients that would have improved the conversion rate or the experience of the client or whatever the case may be. And you don't think about it because you have so many transactions in the course of a day and so many variations that you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I forgot that I didn't do that. And that becomes a big opportunity that you can quickly derail if you're not paying attention to.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the team performance, need to be assessing that on a regular basis. And again, the how often you observe the team performance or review the team performance, probably more reminiscent or reflective of how often, how many engagements, how many transactions, how many opportunities is there for coaching, right? And where are they at in their growth, right? If you have certain employees that you're trying to develop for the next level of leadership, you're probably leaning in a bit more than I guarantee you're doing better than a year review. If you're trying to develop somebody to take over a leadership role, you need to be checking in with them daily, right? And making sure that they're doing the things they need to be doing. So another piece of that is where are they at in their growth and development? Where's your business at in its growth and development, and making sure that they're in alignment as well.
No, it makes sense. That flu thing's still getting you, huh?
Yeah. Trying to get over that last little bit of the cough here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So a couple other things. We talked about I think it was 2 shows ago, we talked about the 7 core competencies. We introduced the 7th one being the innovation and technology. But identify for yourself as a business, one of the things I would encourage you to do, if you haven't reviewed the 7 core competencies, take a look at the content that I post on a regular basis, review some of the videos that we do here. But most importantly, I will tell you with 100% certainty that if you were really constantly looking to develop in all 7 of those core competencies, view yourself as an individual, as a leader running your own business, and you identify and you look at those 7 core competencies and say, hey, look, I got these 3 down. I'm pretty good at these. Where I'm struggling these other 4, right? Pick one of those 4 core competencies that you can focus on this year to get better at. Now, that's not to say you master it. I'm not suggesting that, but just saying that you have a better understanding. So this is yet another way for you to look at your business and say, okay, how can I level up year over year? What could I do to get better at these particular things? For instance, if you're not really great at finance or understanding the finances of your particular business or industry, take some time and make that a focus for the year, right? And so it's something you consciously implement into your weekly, monthly routine, whatever that is, to look at and analyze that information, because you'll find it really useful. So it's creating a new habit of something you can incorporate in your day-to-day activity or weekly activity, whatever it might be, that will help you kind of take things to the next level. And then one of the more final things that we're going to talk about is time blocking, which as it relates to managing your time, right? Time blocking is probably one of the most rudimentary and basic things that you could possibly incorporate into getting more out of your time invested, right, in the things that you're doing. And we're talking about making a transition from last year to this year. What can I be doing differently to build those new habits? This is one. Even if you already do it, you can get better at it. Everybody can get better at it all the time. I mean, I've been doing it for 20 some odd years, and I will tell you, I still, every year I'm like, okay, this is one of the areas where I'm not the best at blocking my time. I need to do a better job of that. So I'm
terrible at that. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Well,
I know the last like week or 2, I have gotten a little better though. I have noticed is okay, now is my time to do this, and I knock those. I do hit those checkpoints. So I've been getting a little better. I've been trying to be more cognizant of it, but still, that's all. I've struggled with time blocking forever. And as soon as somebody sends me an email or something like that, it's like, somebody throws a hand grenade in my freaking calendar and boom, so.
Yep. And that's
the last couple of weeks, let's say the last 2 weeks, I've been actually pretty decent at it, believe it or not.
Good. Well, and that's a perfect example of what we're talking about, because the reality is, to your point, if it's not something you're great at, right? First of all, it's going to take a lot of one, it takes discipline to begin with, but it takes even more discipline to start developing or enhancing and getting better at and creating this as a habit. But most importantly, what you'll find is that you'll stay on task longer, which will improve your ability to follow through and get stuff done. It'll also improve your ability to take bigger projects and break them down intelligently rather than try and sit there and I've got this big monster project. Like let's say, for instance, writing a book. And I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna do it all in this week. I'm gonna take this week off, and I'm just gonna write the book in this week. Well, that's not realistic, because even if you did, the problem that you're gonna have is you need to be able to look at it objectively from multiple vantage points. And you can't condense that down in just a few days. You need ample time to kind of put it away for a week or two and get fresh eyes and come back at it again, right? Or you need to maybe put it in somebody else's hands and allow them a week or two to look at it and come back to you and give you feedback. But anyway, the point is that time blocking is a really important component of effectively moving things forward when you're trying to create new habits. And the habit of time blocking, the habit of in and of itself of time blocking, is one of the most useful things, most basic, but most useful things people can do to really ensure that they're getting better results from their business, and seeing the progress that they'd like to make. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is just take a reality check. Be honest with yourself. If you look at 2025 and you're like, hey, it was a good year, and you leave it at that that's not an assessment, right? That's not if your SWOT analysis started like that, I'm like, okay, well, we got a challenge there, right? You have to be able to be critical of yourself, of your company, of your people. And I'm not saying beat them up. I'm saying just be honest, right? Take a reality check. Is this that you already know things are not going to just magically get better. If you do believe that, and you believe in horseshoes and unicorns and rainbows and all that fun stuff, good luck to you, because that ain't happening, right? It's going to require you to dig in and make things better. There are circumstances you can take advantage of. You get the wind at your sails and you lean into it. Well, then you really optimize it, and that's how amazing things will happen. That's how companies will start and build billion-dollar businesses, right? And the true unicorns and everything. But the reality is that's such a small percent. It's not even 1% of all businesses.
Yeah.
Shoot, only 6% of all businesses ever reach $1 million in top line revenue. And I will tell you statistically, because I'm working on the stats for my book, but it's less than 1% even reach $100 million. Less than 1% ever. I mean, a fraction, not even less than 1%, but a fraction of 1%. So we're talking, I want to say it's like 0.3 or maybe 0.5 of 1%. I think it's like 0.3 of 1% actually reach $100 million. So let alone $1 billion. So when you talk about unicorn, you're talking about, and I'll guarantee you $1 billion is less than, it's a fraction of 0.1%, right? It's right. So the point is, stuff doesn't just happen magically. You have to have a proven system and a process. And if your business isn't one of the 6% that hit $1 million, the likelihood of hitting 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, $1 billion, right? That's one of the things that sets them apart from everybody else, right? Is being consistent with analyzing, being real with yourself, taking an honest look at yourself and saying, okay, what is keeping my business from going to the next level? If you said money to me, I know you don't understand. If you said people, I know you don't understand. If you said systems and processes, I know you don't understand. Each one of those could be a contributing factor, but that's not the reason. Truly and honestly, the biggest reason why your business hasn't moved from where you are to where you want it to go is because of you, the leader, right? Yeah. And this is the toughest one for most everybody to hear. But at the end of the day, your business will only grow at the rate that you as a leader are prepared to grow at. So if you've run a $100 million company, you know what that looks like. Now, can you get it there? That's a whole nother conversation. But the question is, at least you know what it would look like to run at a $100 million company. The problem is, if you never run a $100 million company, the likelihood of you being able to get it to $100 million is pretty freaking slim.
Pretty slim.
Yeah, almost non-existent slim, right? And so the truth of the matter is that you're going to have to grow, and you're going to have to become a better leader, and you're going to have to be a better operator and a better whatever to be able to get the business from where it is today to where you want to go next. And you're going to have to keep leveling up each time. And you, as the leader, have to level up before your business is going to level up. So have that honest reality check with yourself. And however often you choose to do that, and it could be annually, it could be monthly, But the more that you're having that objective perspective, I mean, stepping back and looking at yourself and your situation, the business and the people and everything that's going on, and instead of making excuses of why it hasn't gotten where you want to do, look at it and say, okay, why is it really not getting where it wants to go? Well, often what you're going to find, if you're honest, you're the bottleneck.
You're the one.
99% of the time, you're the one that's holding it back. Right. And so and all it is getting clear on that, because now we can fix it. Until you admit that that's the problem, can't fix it. As long as it's somebody else's problem, we can never fix it. That was one of the hardest things for most people to understand as it relates to personal development. Things don't get better until you acknowledge that you're the one keeping it from getting better. So that's what I got for us today, Chris.
All right, man.
Oh, that was good. I feel better now.
another brutally honest and informative show. Whether you liked it or not, these are the facts.
There you go.
Now the question is, can you handle it? Can you handle the truth? Oh, I'm going to have to put that one on there.
I was going to say that absolutely should be one of the ones you add to
it. You can't handle the truth.
There you go.
Your cash flow sucks. You can't handle the truth. All right, boss. Another great show. And like I said, once again,
appreciate it.
All right, brother. And we're out.